Ooh, Chile. It's so funny because I feel like that's gonna be the way that I'm gonna start all of these videos. Because ooh, Chile. Hi, I'm Destiny Danielle, and welcome to something the Lord only the Lord could possibly have done. Okay. If you saw the title says going from food stamps to six figures. And this has been something this has been something that the Lord has been wanting me to do for a long time. And I was like, God, not doing that. Because first of all, I have so many thoughts. But I will say, I'm blanking on where it is in the Bible. But as I was going back and forth with the Lord, Father, forgive me for going back and forth with you. I don't want to tussle. But what came to mind was the story. I forget who it was that was wrestling with the Lord all night long. And he said, I'm not going to let you go until you bless me. And God's rebuttal to me was, I'm not going to let you go until you obey me. Huh. So here we are, being obedient. And like, I gave God so many reasons as to why I could not, should not, would not. Because first of all, it's almost 11 o'clock p.m. in the American night. Okay. The only time that I have to do this is after bedtime. And I was like, but God, I'm trying to be a present mommy, la di da. Okay, but you're awake. So what are you doing? Mm-hmm. And then the excuses of like the lighting and the whiteboard and all the things because girl, we had to rig this thing up because the double sided tape was not double sided and the way it needed to be double sided and I was like, I don't care about none of that. I need you to get up there and I need you to tell the story. And then I was like, okay, God, well, what story are we gonna tell? Uh, so we're gonna start from the beginning. Starting from the beginning. In 2019. I don't even know. Can you see that? I don't even know if you can see it. 2019. 2019, I was a full-time teacher, fourth grade to be exact, and I didn't actually go to school for teaching. I was teaching in a charter school and then a job that the Lord had literally given me in 2017. In 2017, the Lord gave me the job to teach, right? And 2019, he was like, all right, I need you to leave. I need you to leave. I'm giving you this book. I need you to full-time author. That's what I've called you to do. I have, his word to me was, I'm going to use your voice to speak to the nations. Before I formed in your mother's womb, I knew you and ordained you prophet to the nations. So I was like, yeah, no, God, I'm not doing that. I've always wanted to teach. This is my dream job. You want me to leave my dream job to do what? He just told you, girl. Write books, coach the people, speak to the nations. What's not clicking, Stephen? He already told you. No. So I did it. Fast forward 2022. Actually, let's go 2021. 2021, you know Kurt Franklin's album, The Fight of My Life? The Fight of My Life. I was catching hell at work because 2021, we are pandemic teaching. So I'm virtual teaching, which do not get me started on the sham that was. That's another conversation for a whole nother day. But 2021 is COVID. We in the thick of it. We don't know when it's going to end. I'm teaching from the house. I am catching hell at work because I'm virtual teaching my inclusion class. Those of you who are not education based, you don't know what inclusion means. It means that I have gen ed and I also have special ed, ranging from gifted all the way to what you may know as SPED. I had like 20, they capped us at 25. I had 26. Neither here nor there. Catching hell at work. Okay? I am catching hell at the crib because in 2021, were we engaged? I think we had gotten engaged. I believe I was engaged. Yes, we got engaged in 2020. So catching hell at the house because the Lord already told me that's not what you need to do. And I was like, but God, I love him. But God, we've been together almost 10 years. But God, this is what you do when you love somebody. You stick with them and you get married because you've been together and that's what you're supposed to do. But that's not what I have for you. Okay. 2021, kitchen hell at work, at the crib, in my own body, in my own mind. I'm talking ready to end it all. Okay? Because in 2020, God allowed me to release my first book, Never Forsaken, The Journey to Walk on Water. Catch it on Amazon. But one of the things that I uncovered in writing Never Forsaken is just how deep my childhood wounds went. In that we cover the molestation, in that we cover the mommy wounds, in that we cover a lot in Never Forsaken. But because it was me writing it, a lot of those wounds became open. What I thought was scabbed up, scabbed over, I just got the scars now. Now we didn't create an incision and now the wound is open. So now, boy, struggling. God, you got to do something. God said, I already told you what to do in 2019. I told you, write these books, coach these people, speak to the nations. That's what I told you. But I told you I'm not doing it. I be making myself so angry with that. But anywho, just let's keep moving on with the story. So in 2021, still moving, still trucking. I don't want to be here anymore, but I'm fighting through in the fight of my life. We get down to 2022. 2022, I'm still teaching, still in this relationship, still hell bent on living the life of my dreams. Like, this is the job of my dreams. I'm living in the place of my dreams. I'm with this man that I thought was the man of my dreams. God, you cannot possibly be telling me to walk away from the thing that I've been praying and believing and dreaming about. 2022 entered the chat. 2022, February, I decided I was not going to renew my contract teaching. Okay, cool. God, I say yes. I say yes, Lord. I'm not going to go back into teaching. In my mind, I thought, I assumed, I believed that yes, my delayed yes, would be all I needed to do. God, I say yes, and you're just going to make it happen. It's just going to be magic. Voila. Ciao, boo. 2022, decided I wasn't going to teach anymore. Didn't renew my contract in February. So by May, I'm out of a job. My bills ain't stopped. Matter of fact, I'm in debt. I'm in over my head in debt in 2022. I'm talking, they coming to get my car. I ain't got the money to pay for it. But you want me to quit my, okay. Nevertheless, not my will, that will be done. So here we are. 2022, by May, unemployed. So jobless, carless, but we still got a man, we still got a roof. Okay, cool. We're doing something. But mentally, we're not there. So I my granny, my bestest friend, may she rest in peace, miss you so much, was my safe place. Whenever I needed to escape, I'm going to see my granny. So that's exactly what I did in July 2022. Went to see my granny. And I had been praying and fasting and believing that God was going to move in my life. And he did move in my life, and he told me to move my entire life. So 2022, I left everything and everybody and moved 800 miles across the country to Tulsa, Oklahoma. In July, when I went to go see my granny, I was interviewing at places, and the original position that I interviewed for, they did not hire me for, but then they circled back, spun the block, and contracted me out to fulfill a position that did not exist. They created the position for me. July 2022. Position started in August. I didn't end up moving until September because I literally nothing. Did not know anybody in Tulsa, did not have the money to get to Tulsa. In my bank account at that time, I had to clean out my teacher savings retirement. One, to get about that debt that I was in. And whatever I had left, it was like less than $1,000. I had just enough to get my plane ticket. I didn't even have to, I had to ask my auntie to get my, y'all. As I'm recounting this story right now, I'm realizing just how much of it has been suppressed. And that is something that is so brilliant. And I'm so grateful to God because He allows us to survive. But in that surviving, we block out, we suppress our emotions, our feelings, we suppress what's really going on. And I'm what we would refer to psychologically as a chronic suppressor. Suppression has been my jam my entire life. There are large chunks of my life that I do not remember. Different conversation for a different day, but since we're here, we're going to talk a little bit about it. So, what happens is traumatic events. Everybody thinks that traumatic events are solely big T trauma. That's not what traumatic events are. We'll come back to this. Traumatic event is literally living your life, boom. Something happens that alters your emotional state. It can be something as traumatic as the R word, something as traumatic as a big death in the family. It can be something as small as invalidation. Something as tiny as when you were 6, you drew the picture of a pony and it was the most beautiful pony that you had ever drawn. You got it to your mommy and your mommy was like, oh, okay. What is it? Boy, what do you mean? What is it, Marcia? It's a pony. And so now that traumatic event, if you would have kept going on with your life, guess what? You were going to be an artist. But because of that traumatic event, now your entire life has been altered down here somewhere because of one event. That is how brilliant our brain is, but also how the brain is. Because then now we start telling ourselves these narratives and we start looking at life through the lens of this trauma. And so now, instead of seeing myself as the artist that God created me to be, now I'm seeing myself as less than. Now I'm seeing myself as unworthy. Now I'm seeing myself as if I don't have a purpose because my purpose is up here, but I've stepped away from my purpose because of something that somebody said, someone that had influence over my perception of myself has now altered my perception of myself. And now I'm entering into an identity crisis that I'm not going to find out about until much later. So here we are. We're in Tulsa. We're in 2022. It's Tulsa. September, we get to Tulsa. Less than $1,000. Got enough money to get my hotel room for 6 days. That was it. That's all I had. 6 days worth of hotel money. Started my job Friday. Wasn't going to get paid for another month. Looking for apartments. Found an apartment. Blessed be the name of the Father. Move in, do all the things. The reason why we had to take this segue is because for me, for destiny, I was living somewhere down here. This had now, let's find another color. Let's do merge. So now I'm living my life down here. And that's just where we were chilling. That is where I became a perfectionist. That is where I became a control freak. That is where I became a type A machine. And this is not knocking my type A'ers. This is to bring light and give language to some of the root causes of type A personalities. Type A personalities need that sense of control because at some point in your life, something traumatic happened to where you felt like you were out of control. And so your brain said, we will never feel this way again. And so now we preemptively try to control everything and everyone around us. This is also where Destiny became a perfectionist because when this traumatic event happened, I my brain said, in order to receive love, you have to perform perfectly. In order to belong, you have to perform perfectly. In order to be validated, in order to have value, in order to be worthy, in order to exist, you need to perform perfectly. And so now the perfectionist says you have to do everything perfectly to the T. The reason why this is different than, the reason why we have to talk about this is because perfection, like the word perfect as it is written in the Bible, when the scripture says, let patience have her perfect work, so that you will be whole, lacking nothing, that word perfect literally means whole. It does not mean without flaw, it does not mean without blemish, it means lacking nothing. And so up here, I'm lacking nothing, but down here, I feel like I lack everything. And so I need to overcompensate for what I lack. In comes people pleasing, in comes codependency, in comes I am going to give as much love as the world can take, even if that means bleeding myself dry and devoiding myself of the love that I've been trying to give to everybody else. So here we are in 2022. In 2022, all of the things that happened in here, because this wasn't just like one traumatic event. We're just gonna lump all the traumas here. It was traumas here and traumas here and traumas here. We're gonna lump them all together right here. So 2022, the sole reason, like I thought that I was going to Tulsa for a job, and I also knew that God kept telling me He was sending me to Tulsa to build something that would outlive me. I had no idea what that meant, but in while I was in Tulsa, I wrote "Rooted," the journey to walk on water. Um, it is one of the greatest works. Boy, not even to plug, but shameless plug. I need you to get rooted for real. And the premise of rooted is getting rooted in God's unconditional love and truth. Because down here, you don't know God's unconditional love and truth. After that traumatic event happens, it's legitimately like when Adam and Eve were in the garden and they ate of the tree, and now there was enmity. I think it's EMNITY, enmity between God and man. That's Satan's whole MO, is to create this divide between us and God. Boy, I am rambling. And I pray that somebody is getting something from this. So if you're watching this and you're getting something from it, drop me a comment, say something, let me know. Anywho, so 2022, we're rooted. And getting rooted in God's unconditional love and truth means that everything that has happened here, here, and here, God needs to deal with it. He needs to deal with it because right now it exists in a subterranean level, and God needs to bring it up to the surface so that He can wipe it away, wash it clean, wash us clean. This is why I firmly believe that God triggers us. Boy, we love to talk about being triggered. I can sell it triggered. Good, you should be. Because when God pulls the trigger and allows you to be triggered, it's because He is signaling, hey, there's something here that I need you to let go of. There's something here that I want to heal. There's something here. There's a wound here that is being poked. It is being poked because it has not fully healed. And because it has not fully healed, God needs you to let Him do the hard work of healing it. And so that's what Tulsa was. If you ever hear me talk about Tulsa, I am going to always talk about how healing Tulsa was because God attacked my mommy issues, my daddy issues, my self esteem issues, my self worth issues, my savior complex. Because, boy, the people pleaser and the codependent, they were working overtime to make me cap and save a soul. I believed that it was my duty to the world to save people. Giving my last dollar, giving the shirt off my back, giving, doing. And God was like, if you're always giving and doing, where do I step into their lives? Didn't think about that because all I'm thinking about down here is me. All I'm thinking about down here is how I need love and validation. All I'm thinking about down here is how way back here, my daddy didn't love me the way that I needed him to love me. So now I feel like I have to do everything that I can to overcompensate for that lack. So here we are down here, 2022, right and rooted. And so much is coming up. One of the exercises my therapist gave me, and I would challenge you to do this, is it's called I Didn't Feel Protected When. And I ended up having to do this for several people, including myself, where you write out all the times and all the ways you did not feel protected over the course of your life. Boy, eye opening. So we're doing all the things, doing all the things, doing all the things. And then because we were doing all the things, here comes, is my pink marker? I done threw my timeline marker away, but that's all right. Here comes 2023. 2023, I become a mommy. And it has been a hell of a journey just reclaiming my mind from then. Let me explain what I mean by that. Because if you remember, 2022, before I went to Tulsa, I was engaged, right? Okay, boom, here we go. Getting very vulnerable here. In my moving to Tulsa, engagement over. We know together. So now, in 2022, while the Lord is doing all this major heart surgery, I am going through what I call a severance. Because when you have a long term relationship, it is not just a breakup. Like your lives are interwoven and interconnected very similarly to married couples. You just don't have the paperwork, which, neither here nor there. And so I am sad and lonely. Now, you'll be watching this. Don't ever think that SJEW is not the greatest thing that has ever happened to my life because I say SCJEW. Lord, I can't use my own baby name. Greatest thing that ever happened to my life, to my family, to this world. And honestly, the Lord knew she needed to get here. I joked with my family that if they didn't get a baby out of me before 30, they were going to have to settle for a puppy. I also knew that my granny, Liz, may she rest in peace, all she ever wanted was a great grandbaby. And I had just come to the conclusion that, sorry, sis, you're just not going to get one. But even that was something that I was dealing with because I felt as though my ex robbed me of the opportunities to share in those moments with my granny. And that whole other can of worms to open up. Back to the topic at hand. So 2023, we become a mommy. And I remember little to nothing. But what I do remember is God forcing me to fast, pray, and worship more than I have ever fasted, prayed, and worshiped in my entire life. And because back in 2019, when he told me to write the book and speak to nations, I was like, okay, God, that's what Rooted is. Rooted is going to be that one. This is the book that's going to change the entire trajectory of everything that I've ever done. But because over here, I have these narratives. One of the narratives is that nothing ever works out for me. Bad things always happen, is one of the narratives that exists down here. And so, because that is a narrative that exists, remember, I said that when trauma happens, we now live our lives through the lens of that trauma. So, whatever that trauma says, whatever it translates to, whatever meaning we make, becomes the lens through which we see our lives, our behaviors, our patterns, our thoughts reflect these narratives. And so, because my narrative was things don't work out for me, enter self-sabotage into the chat. And it's so crazy having this conversation with y'all / myself, because to the non-destiny eye, you would say, girl, self-sabotage, what? I remember Rooted. I remember you promoting. I remember you pushing. I remember you doing all the things. Yeah. Did enough to say that I was doing something, but not enough to say I was being obedient. Disgusting. Because I was supposed to go on tour with Rooted. Granted, baby, but still, I gave the Lord every excuse in the book as to why I could not, should not, would not go on tour with Rooted. Can't do it. Not because I don't actually believe in the words that you've given me, God. Not because I don't actually believe that you are not going to be the forefront of this tour, but because this narrative down here, or one of these narratives says, things don't work out for me. Good things don't happen. Good things, even if they happen, they do not last. Another narrative down here also says, I'm unworthy of great things. So double down on that's not happening. That's not a thing. Can't do it. And if you remember, you may say, oh, but you did go on tour. Maybe I did one event. I did one event. It was a great event. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. But it was only one. Partial obedience is still disobedience. And so here we are. 2023 happens. Do my little tour. Have my little baby. 2024 comes and goes. And 2024 ends with the hardest death I have ever navigated. Am navigating. That granny that I had this baby for, that granny that I went to escape with, left me down here in this ghetto earth. And so, like I was saying, I'm having a hard time reclaiming 2023 thoughts, memories. Baby, 2024 was a complete blur. In the throes of single motherhood, in the throes of still navigating post-severance, in the throes of trying to make sense of what in the Lifetime movie network happened to my beautiful, pristine dream life. Where did it go, God? And when's it coming back? But obviously there is no going back, because the Lord had already told you, girl, you're not gonna be with that man. You're not gonna be in that, you're not gonna do none of what you thought you was doing. And so, boy, cave. That was me. Done. Just falling over. hid myself away in the cave. I'm not doing nothing. I don't want any parts of any of this. I just want to be a mommy. And so between 2023, 2024, I still got bills. Now I got a baby to feed. And Shorty didn't like the regular formula. We had to have, what was it, the gentle release formula. Mm-hmm. The one that the little bottle was costing me about $35. That one. We gotta eat. So what do? I do what this narrative says. I gotta survive. I gotta get a job. And the Lord blessed me. The Lord blessed me to get a job. He sure did. And in that job, like I was in 2021, catching hell. Oh God, we doing this again? Because hear this. God will frustrate you into favor. Like I really thought that I was just going to arrive and God was just going to bless the books. He was going to bless me to speak because that's what you said, God. But there had to be some pruning. There had to be some undoing. There had to be some crushing and some pressing and some breaking. Because destiny in 20, I keep pointing up here, but there's no time up here. Destiny in 2019 and destiny now. We'll just go 2024. I've lived 4 lives between 2019 and 2024. Because there was so much that happened here that I had carried down here that God needed to undo. And so here we are literally from 2019 until 2026. We'll just bring it to the present because I've been around for 30 minutes now. Everything that God has done here in between time, He has taken it. Like, I have so many books and courses and frameworks and devotionals and products and all the things. And I was like, God, there's no way that you've given me all these things and I'm not a millionaire right now. There's no way. It does not compute. You can't make it make sense. He said, it actually does make sense because you're still living down here. You're still living with these narratives. You're still living under the shame spirals. You're still living down here. Now remember, this was God's original design. This was God's original plan. When God said, let there be back in Genesis, this is the plan that He spoke into existence. But because the enemy knew that this plan was going to end in his absolute demise, he did everything that he could to break you down. He did everything that he could to wear you down. He did everything that he could to bring you so low. And here's where a lot of people give up. They quit. Rock bottom is not the place where you feel like getting up from all the time. I've hit a few rock bottoms where I don't get out of bed for what? I'm just gonna lay here. I'm not taking a shower. I'm not leaving this room. I'm not eating. I don't need no water. I just need to lay here and cry. That's all I want to do. Rock bottom. The optimists say the only way to go is up. And so this is a part of the getting up. Because the scripture says, and I think it's in Acts, and when you have returned, like when you've returned to yourself, return to your senses, return to God, return to the original design, reach back and strengthen your brothers. And so I've literally been watching God in real time use the words that He's given me to speak to other people and do just that, pulling them up out of whatever trenches that they're in and then giving them the language so that they can go to do the very same thing. And it's so mind boggling to me because in 2019, when God said He was going to use my voice to speak to the nations, I thought He meant I was going to pack my bags and be going overseas somewhere to the nations, the geographical nations. While that is still very much something He has spoken to, He means you, the nation that exists within you. You who have stayed watching this video and listening to me rambling, you are the nation. You are an entire nation on the inside of you right now. And what do I mean by that? What I mean, think about what a nation is. A nation is different peoples, different cultures, different ecosystems together. You have on the inside of you right now different ecosystems. You have within you right now different cultures. You are a nation. I'll dive more into that on another day because I got to wrap this up. But in God using my voice to speak to the nations, in God using me to help people get out of the trenches, I had to first understand how to get out of the trenches. My favorite phrase is, I cannot teach you how to tie your shoes until I've learned how to tie my own. And even this right now is me learning how to tie my own shoes. And so, we done skipped over 2025. So 2024, I went into the cave and sulked. I laid, didn't want to do nothing. 2025, I was still in the cave, but I was starting to see why. I was seeing why I was in the cave, and I was also starting to put the pieces that God was giving me together. The mosaic pieces that He was putting together, I was letting Him put those pieces together. Here we are, past halfway through 2026, and those pieces are now like stair steps to the life of God's dreams, God's original design, the identity that God spoke over me, over you, over us. This is how we access it. You are not who you think you are. Your personality as you know it right now is down here. Your personality as you know it right now is a culmination of your survival adaptations, is a culmination of your traumatic experiences, is a culmination of things that people have said to and about you. Your personality right now exists. Help me, Lord. As a caricature, if you will. The strong friend, a caricature. The dependable friend, a caricature. Those are not actual personality traits. Those are badges that you put on yourself to make yourself feel good, to make yourself feel special, to make it so that in a world where you can be anything, you want to be everything to everybody. Because the people pleaser, the codependent, the perfectionist, the control freak, all of them thrive. That ego thrives on being needed. If I'm not needed, I'm not worthy. You are. You're so worthy. You're so worthy that God wrecked entire lives to get you to understand He loves you. What do you mean He wrecked lives? Has your life been wrecked? Have you found yourself at rock bottom? Do you know somebody who's found themselves at rock bottom just so that you can walk together to show that you're not actually alone? And if you have not found anybody to walk with you through rock bottom, it's okay. Hey, hi, I'm Destiny Danielle. Welcome. Let's walk together. The wrecking of your life, the wrecking of my life between 2019 and 2026 has been the greatest. The absolute greatest. This is literally what epic tales are made of: tragedy, triumph, trial and error. And now's the point where I tell you something. But no, for real. All of this, it would not be possible without God. And if you watched this and you're still here and you're like, okay, but how do I get it? How do I walk with God and see the life of his dreams? How do I get from down here to get up here? How? Revelation to revenue. I know. I can't believe I'm selling it either. But it's good and it works. And God will take a single revelation, because the problem is not that you have too many things. The problem is that the many things that God has given you don't have a system. The many things that God has given you, they don't have order, they don't have structure. You think that it's all disjointed, and so you've been trying to do a little bit here, do a little bit here, do a little bit there, do a little bit there, and God is like, no, let me show you that it does in fact all go together. All right, that's it. I'm through. I'll be back tomorrow because that's my instruction. And I'm not going to be the entitled, disobedient brat of a child anymore. I'm actually going to do what my father says, believing that in me doing what he says, he's going to do what he said. It took me 7 years. It took me 7 years. Another thing that happens up here is God collapses timelines. He has given me the power and the knowledge to collapse timelines. The things that I had to learn and sift through and navigate on my own, just me and Holy Spirit, He's equipped me to teach them to collapse the timeline. So what has taken me 7 years, it won't take you 7 years. It won't even take you 7 months, honestly. I cannot tell you enough how much of a blessing collapsed timelines are. Because the enemy trying to wear you down and wear you out is because, God, I thought I'd be further by now. I thought I would have it by now. God, I should be there by now. And so now that plays even more into our minds, even more into how we feel about ourselves, even more into these narratives that we've been living our lives under. Whole time God is like, but come with me. Come with me. Take up your cross and come with me. And that's what we do in Revelation to Revenue. That's what we do. So yeah, this has been great. I really enjoy it. I love it here. I used to God, there's no way that I can do this because I'm so tired. I'm not. I actually feel energized at almost midnight, rambling and putting some colors on the wall on the whiteboard. And I can't even see the comments. So prayerfully, if somebody tuned in, you left me some comments to say, "Oh, girl, yes," or "Girl, what?" And if there's a girl, what, and you want me to expound on something, let me know. I can talk. I love to talk. All right, get out of here. Remember that healing isn't the end. It is the ignition to the life of God's dreams. This is Destiny Danielle signing off. Peace.